The Green Knight is a bedtime story of biblical proportions and a movie that I've been so excited to watch and review. It's actually one of the main reasons I started this channel, and I'm so happy I could watch it last night because it was everything that I hoped it would be. But it definitely isn't one for everyone because it is abstract, poetic, and sometimes a little confusing, but in all the best ways in my opinion. So let's dive right into it. Welcome to Indecent. My name is Vincent and I'm here to take a look at some movies and games, both old and new, to help you find what could be your next favorite indie project. So if you have a heart for passion projects and low budget masterpieces, please consider subscribing to my channel on a quest to find the ultimate independent production. But without wasting any more time, let's dive right into my personal thoughts and feelings on the brilliant The Green Knight. The Green Knight is a 2021 American epic medieval fantasy film, directed, written, edited and produced by David Lowery, starring Dev Patel as King Arthur's headstrong nephew, who embarks on a daring quest to confront the Green Knight, a mysterious giant who appears at Camelot. Risking his head, he sets off on an epic adventure to prove himself before his family and the court. So before I continue, let's just explain to you how things work on this channel. So first, we're going to have a spoiler-free talk that's indicated by this graphic in the corner, where we discuss things in a manner that is suitable to people who have not yet seen this movie. Then we're going to move over into spoiler talk indicated by this graphic for people who have already seen the movie and want to be part of a more in-depth discussion, which I'm very excited for. But with that out of the way, let's talk about my general thoughts of this movie, and I genuinely loved it. After spending some time thinking about how I feel about it, I came to the conclusion that this is one of my favorite movies of the last while, and it really needs you to give it that time to process and marinate, because it's a very complex and deep movie with a lot of hidden messages, thoughts and feelings that need to be uncovered, and I love that for the most part, because there's so many aspects to this movie that there is to love. First and foremost, and probably the most easy part of this movie to love, is its visuals. From the very first frame to the very last frame of this movie, it is absolutely gorgeous. You could close your eyes and randomly pause at any section in the movie and you're gonna have a poster that you can put on your wall. That's how beautiful this movie is. And the movie that I've seen of David Lowery before, A Ghost Story, is just as beautiful, but he's definitely stepped it up a notch with The Green Knight. It is gorgeous, its color palette is mwah, and everything about it is just so beautiful to look at, and that's one of the reasons I love this movie and don't mind the fact that it is 2 hours long, because that's just so many more poster frames for you to put on your wall. Because this story in itself feels very poetic and, like I said, biblical. It feels big and epic. It feels both big and epic and intimate at the same time, which is really helped by the amazing cast that it boasts. But before we get there, I'd like to touch further on the visuals. The production design of this thing is so amazing. It felt like they, instead of building sets and costumes and stuff, it feels like they just teleported a camera back to medieval times, telling this King Arthur sort of story, which is really what sells the feeling the director is trying to bring across. It is so freaking hot in here. I thought I was switching it up by wearing a beanie, but I feel like I'm just punishing myself. Anyway, they also use titles very creatively in this movie, dividing it into a bunch of segments, easily 6 or 7, maybe my count is off. But anyway, it just further sells the feeling of a book, of an old book you've dug out of the attic that tells a 1,000-year-old tale. And I really love that. And that's one of the things I really like about the movie, is the fact that it's broken up into all these segments that feels like chapters of a book. And all these segments are almost self-contained, even though there is a larger story that carries through the entire movie, which is this epic tale of Gawain trying to prove his honor. But in these different segments, you meet new characters, which in a lot of the cases are contained only to these segments, and you enjoy it for what it is, this little story. I don't know if you've ever read The Last Witch, the first Witcher book. It's the only Witcher book I have read, regrettably, but it has a very similar feeling to that, in which that book, Geralt has this quest that he completes throughout the book, but it is very clearly divided into these self-contained stories, and I really love that about this movie. And in these segments, there are some large name actors that this movie boasts, which lend their performances to sometimes only minutes of screen time, but it really just tells an epic story. And I don't think I could describe this movie better than an epic story. I made the mistake of thinking going into this movie that it's some sort of medieval horror, and it isn't that. It is more epic and fantasy and drama. It's more of a medieval fantasy drama than it is horror or even a slash action. There is literally no action that I can even put my finger on in this movie. So it really is going for a certain theme and feeling. And if you don't like this movie in the first 20 minutes, you're not going to like the rest of the 120 minutes. So do consider that. I'll finish up my spoiler-free section of this video by saying that if you possibly can and haven't yet, go see this movie in cinemas, because it needs the biggest screen with the best speakers to enjoy it to its fullest extent, because it is an absolute delight to the senses. But before we move into spoiler talk, I'd like to ask you once again to please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, if you're interested in hidden gems like The Green Knight, because I will be exploring them twice a week, whether it's movies or games, and would love to share all of them with you. Now onto spoiler talk. Even though there are so many discussions to be had for each segment of this movie, the only spoiler talk that I'll be doing today is about the ending. And I really love this La La Land sort of ending that this movie has, where it potentially gives you two alternatives of how Gawain's life proceeded, and it's up to you to choose which one is the one that you buy. And I love that they did it in this way. I love the montage, the almost 10-minute, maybe more, I'm not sure, montage at the end of the movie where they just show how things would have looked if Gawain did not allow the Green Knight to continue with the game or to finish the game. And it is a life without honor. That is the subtitle, the bottom line of what Gawain's life looks like if he does not finish and honor his promise to the Green Knight. And the way they depict that without any words is done so beautifully. It's almost like this beautiful music video art piece, how they tell the tale of the rest of his life and how he lives a life without honor. And I love the sequence where he removes his green belt of protection, or whatever you want to call it, and it removes his head. And it's a very metaphorical, abstract thing, because your head represents your honor. Your crown is your honor. That gives you a lot to think about, but we won't dive too much into that, as it's a whole discussion in itself. But then when they, at the very end of the movie, where they show the more honorable possible ending to Gawain's life, where he keeps his promise and stays honorable to the Green Knight and allows him to hit him, to cut him in the way that he cut the Green Knight a year ago. And I love that section. I love this fact that he removes that belt to ensure that there's no trickery, but that he receives that which he has given in an honorable manner. And when the Green Knight says, "Well then, off with your head," it just gave me chills. And I just love the ending to this movie, and I'd love to have discussions with people to hear what they think this whole movie means. What is the message of the director? What is the themes that I'm missing here? Because it's a movie so rich and worth discussion, because it tells a million stories and has a million hidden mysteries. But those are my thoughts on Green Knight, and that's it for me, Vincent from Indiecent. Would love to hear what you think, so please do comment it in the comment section below. But bye for now.